an amazing time here with Strength Africa Studio. One of the things that makes this interesting is we're going to be speaking with Lady Larraine, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Chang. Okay, so as I read our profile, technical, please, can we have a profile, and then we'll get into the activity of today.
Oh, wow. This is my profile, right? Yeah. There's a lot of words in there.
All right. So Larraine is also the founder of Ascension Associates, a business strategy and human capital management consultancy that brings strategy implementation, talent acquisition, and human capital management together. He was certified by Gallup in March 2019 as a Gallup Certified Strength Coach. He's of the Institute of Executive Coaching and Leadership at the level 2, certified executive coach. And he is a team coach, which got in 2020. 2020 was that year of the pandemic, helping our clients tap on their innate talents and unleash their potential. Having worked in the executive search field for over 8 years, Larraine often sees the alignment gap between business strategy and talent acquisition. This prompts her to set up Ascension Associates to solve business problems with more attention. Larraine is she's leading the business development, marketing, and international expansion, and continues the mission to bridge the gap between strategy execution. Prior to Ascension Associates, Larraine was the recruitment director for the insurance desk at the Hong Kong recruitment startup at the time of 2011. Life actuarial consultant, one of the fastest growing financial services Gravitas recruitment. He is a globetrotter. He has studied and worked in Hong Kong, Calgary, London, and California. Larraine is an avid reader, enjoys jazz, acts, and practices yoga. Graduate from the University of Hong Kong, a bachelor's degree in European studies. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got with me Larraine, Chang, Larraine, how are you?
Good. Happy to be excited, kind of like psyched to be, like sharing and discussing with people on literally from me, the other end of the planet. So.
And it's so good to have you. So today we have to move this forward because of timing, but don't worry, this will be played at exactly the same time. So, okay, so Larraine, just reading your profile, and I'm wondering, there are a couple of things that struck out for me, that being that you, the bit around your globetrotting, one, the fact that you, in the midst of the pandemic, you also became a team coach or an executive coach or something. I think I saw that in your profile. I picked out about 3 things from your profile. One, the globetrotting bit. The other bit around being a recruitment specialist, and now you are now having to coach people, and they are bringing alignment between the strategy and implementation and all of that to get people to attain top performance. And then the other bit as to the having to become a coach in the midst of the pandemic in 2020. Okay, so can we touch on those 3 first, just to help you unbundle or unpack yourself? Because I have a few questions also that will enable, envision, and empower people to become the best that they can be.
Okay, just fire away. Fire away your questions on my globe-trotting part. What do you want to know about that?
So how's it been? Being in different climes, playing different roles. Just share with us. And how does this align with your strengths?
Okay. Yeah, I think, back in my high school days in Hong Kong, I was already speaking to my parents that I want to go on boarding school in UK. But it's just that back in those days, it was too expensive for them to do so. And so, but I've been speaking to them that, I want to go study abroad. This is my dream, and I want to do something else. I don't want to just stay in my city. I want to go outside and see for myself, right? Like what you said the other day when we first connected, the world is ours. And so, when I got into uni, year one, the very first thing that I did is not like doing what other students were doing, but to check out the exchange program from the University of Hong Kong, like who are their partners, what can we do, what's the process like. And before November or December, I think, I got notified that I would be able to go exchange in Canada, in Calgary. And the choice that I made is very interesting because, as you might know, Vancouver and Toronto are popular places for Chinese, right? So I was thinking, if I go to a place to do exchange study, why should I go to a place where I just meet my own people? I got 7.5 million of them in here, right? So I don't need to travel 12,000 miles to see another face like me. And I saw the place Calgary, and I'm like, great, I've never heard of it. I'm going there. That's just how I make the decision without a lot of research. But turns out, they are very good school. They're very good in engineering. They're very good in business as well. And not to mention, when it gets to winter, it's minus 38 with wind chill.
Whoa.
And in Hong Kong and like Nigeria, unless it's like Mount Kilimanjaro, right? We never snow. So I had never seen any real snow before I went to Canada. And then when I went there, it's like, boom, 0 degrees in October, and then it's like snowing. And then when it got to winter, it's like minus 38 with wind chill for 3 days. That's how cold that they can get. And I told everyone that I met, I'm like, I have seen enough snow in my life, to be honest. That's just enough. And then when I was in Canada, I was thinking to myself, like, hold on a minute. Okay, now that I got that out of Asia exposure, right? I was like 19 or 20. But my degree is in European studies. It doesn't make sense to study about something when you have never been there, right? So I was telling myself, okay, let's just do something practical for myself. And at that time, I didn't even know my strengths or whatever. I didn't do the assessment. So I researched and found out that actually you can intern in the London Parliament. And I told my parents literally on the phone from Canada, I'm like, you know what? I'm doing European degrees, European studies. I had never been to Europe at that time. I'm going there. I'm applying, and I got the internship to work with a member of a parliament in London, UK. So literally, because the school term ends in April for Canada. So on April 28th, I moved out of the dormitory. April 30th, I started my job in London. And then I had never been to London in my entire life by then, right?
How old were you then? How old were you then?
20.
So you did your first trip out of Hong Kong by 18 or 19?
19, 20. I spent my 20th birthday in Calgary in an Ethiopian restaurant, by the way. I can still remember.
Then you said, look, this is not enough.
Yeah.
You decided that you were going to go and do your internship in London.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so please go ahead. So
I flew there, I got there, and then I spent my summer holidays for two months in there, right? And then I did a little bit of more pure traveling in Europe for a week before I went back to Canada to catch the flight to go back to Hong Kong, and that's it. And then when I went back to Hong Kong, my uni has a program called Intensified Learning Opportunities Program, where they include overseas internship for students. So I got into the program on top of my studies, and I, long story cut short, I ended up in San Jose, California for that summer. So that's Silicon Valley. So I interned for a startup, and they're in semiconductor. So they were looking into how to make the whole chip making process more reliable. Because every single time you want to invest in a chip that we use in TVs and phones and everything right now, it's very expensive. So they want to make the entire process more reliable in a more cost-effective way. So I interned there. Not that I know anything about chip making or semiconductor industry, but it's just that as a marketing intern in there. So it went from there. But then the whole global financial crisis came, and then all my plans were kind of like interrupted.
That's
and so,
right? In 2014 or what?
And in eight, the Lehman Brothers collapsed in 2008. So I graduated in 2009. So my previous plans were kind of like put to a halt, interrupted, because that was a very hard year to find jobs for university graduates. But I think this year and last year it was even harder for the graduates. It was even harder than my time.
Wow.
And so anyway, I spent my first year trying to figure out my career. And then I ended up in headhunting, because I was pitching everyone, introducing myself in a cocktail. And then for some reasons, I pitched a headhunter about what I was selling at the time, which was like a one-stop marketing solutions. And then he's like, well, I think you got potential to be a recruiter if you were pitching me at your age, because I was like 22, 23. I was like, okay. And when I got into headhunting, I like it because it's connecting with people, it's matching with people, it's understanding people, what they need and what they think, and listening to the unsaid, and find out what they really want, what really bugs them, what really motivates them, right? And so I got into that. And then fast forward to 2018, that was almost like, this is it. I had to leave my previous firm. I want to do my own thing. Partly because I felt like a lot of the times people cannot hire for the right person. It's not because we don't have enough CVs or candidates. It's a lot because of that kind of alignment gap that I mentioned in my profile. Sometimes the strategy is not right. Sometimes the organizational design is not right. Sometimes, the people forget to train their own staff or to look at the whole thing from a more holistic perspective. And then fast forward to now that I'm speaking to you, why I did that coaching training last year is because I did that Gallup strengths coach certificates in December 2018. And so we started the whole certification process, and I got the cert in early 2019. 2019, it was hard for me and half of Hong Kong, because everybody knows the second half of 2019, we were just having unprecedented social unrest. But, for me on a personal level, that was a year after I set up my own firm. And then I was suffering imposter syndrome. I thought that I was not good enough to coach someone. I thought I was not good enough to explain eloquently what strength is and to get people engaged and to understand what I do. Because if I first tell people that, hey, come do Strengths Finder, they'll be like, oh, assessment, well, thanks, but they don't know the beauty of it. So I felt like, how can I communicate that? And knowing that actually communication talent is not really high for me after I do the assessment. And so I was asking people around me, say, hey, I want to be good at what I do. I want to be confident that I know what I'm doing. And people ask me like, hey, I think you should go to, do some training, executive coaching. And they recommended me to do IECA program. And they're an Australian training company. And I learned the basics and I go from there. And I have to say the Gallup strengths coaching as the base. They first taught me on the strengths-based concept. And then together with the executive coaching training and team coaching training, which is also strength-based, it kind of like enabled me to empower people to think things differently from a more positive angle. And because my top 2 is achiever and my top 3 is activator, I can actually kind of like, like push the people that I work with to start working towards their goals, and I help them envision what their future looks like, because my number 1 is futuristic. But thinking back, I would say Taiwo, during that Gallup strength coaching training, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, because it has opened doors for me. It helped me connect with people that I've never imagined, like what we're doing right now. And it helped me understand why I act in a certain way, why I perceive some of the situations a certain way, and also why I feel draining when I'm using one of those talents. For example, I'm super impatient. I want to start things, I want to kick off things. But last year, it was just hard. It was just hard. So I had to turn down my activator talent and instead use more of my learner talent, and kind of like, and then together with futuristic, to see for myself how I can bring the best in people every day. And that's by continually learning how to be a better coach.
Wow, awesome. No, and I must say, just hearing you speak, I would almost have concluded that you had communication as part of your top strength, because I didn't want you to stop. You were just hitting it on. But I can, yeah, but I also see that you've also developed a skill. And that's one of the things I like to tell people, because in this age that we're in, communication is a skill, and I love the way you communicate. So I must just give that to you. Now, but beyond that is also your, how do I say it, the adventural, or if there's anything like that, but the spirit of adventure in you that has caused you to be able to, defy the odds and just breeze through. So you've gone to how many continents now? And you're everywhere, really. And so when I tell people about, how do you become successful? There are 4 key elements I attribute to. And it's not envision, it's not enable, it's not empower. Is that the first one is there's the education bit. The second one is around the exposure bit. The third one is about the experience. And the fourth one is about the environment you create internally and externally. And if there's anything you've done, if I was supposed to score you, is that you have done excellently well on all fronts. You've educated yourself, you've exposed yourself, you're also garnering the experience that you need, and ultimately, you're creating an environment of what you want. Now, tell me, before taking the strength test, before taking the strength test, and before becoming a coach, now looking back, at any point in time, did you see, or can you now look back and zoom and say, hey, you were using these strengths, which strengths do you think you were using before you realized that you were using the strength? And tell us how those strengths were used wrongly or in a raw state, and what you would have done differently. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even now I'm still using some of my talents. If we are using Gallup's word, sometimes I'm still misapply some of our natural ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. But I think back then it helped me because I know that where my company wants to be, I know where I want to be. I want to be an entrepreneur. I always told myself that I would have my own company one day. It's just that I didn't really think it through very, very clearly back in when I was like 23 or 24. But when I got close to like 30 or 31, then it became clearer and clearer to me about what I want to do with myself, right? And what I want to receive for myself. And so that helped me, right? And my activator always helped me to kickstart very quickly. Let's just go get that project going. Let's just actually get that idea running, and I would go do it. But a lot of the times, maybe not actually maybe, I have misapplied my strategic talent. I did come up with options, but sometimes those options didn't work. And when I run out of options, I didn't know what to do. And then I could kind of like hinder my success as an entrepreneur. And that's when I realized, you know, I need allies, and I need to use more of my other talents to influence people, to get people on board, and help me to think through some of my ideas, whether they are working, whether they're not working. And in fact, I got one of the former CEOs helping me to kind of streamline my services so that I can explain to people easily, right? Talking about misapply, sometimes I think for activated people, we might really react a little bit too quickly, even on an emotional level. And I realized that when Taiwo, when you're saying that success bit, when you're saying that the environment definitely consists of our emotions. So if our emotions is not stable, no matter how good you are, you can't do it. So I am turning down my natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving to create that consistent emotional environment so that I can take a step back and see what else can I do? What kind of questions can I ask, right? We're both coaches. What kind of question can I ask so that I can get to the answer that I want and I don't elicit unintentional negative behaviors.
Now, I love how you've talked about the misapplication of one's talent or strength. I love and I also even love that last bit when you start to address the internal environment, where because truly the internal kind of truly guides the external, and I'm sure you're familiar with what we call the iceberg effect, where embedded within are things that we have, been programmed. In fact, there's a session we're having, it's called the Reinvention Immersion Bootcamp. And one of the things I've hinged on at that bootcamp, it started on the 1st, that's on Sunday, is the fact that we all need to experience what we call upgrades or updates. Now, I'm sure everybody has a gadget at some point. That's one of the things that everybody has. And these gadgets constantly update, or you need to upgrade. But a lot of people have been programmed with all those beliefs that they had back then, including errors, including viruses, including all kinds of Trojans, that they need to constantly update. And that's the essence of a coach. Now, tell me, how have you, because you now, and I love when you start to say, look, you're becoming more conscious and becoming more aware. And for whoever is listening to us today, this is Strength Discussion Series, just in case you're wondering, what are they talking about? And we're trying to say, look, there's really an alignment between your awareness of yourself and productivity, all right, as to your outcome or your output. And if you didn't get the thought around outcome and output, please go and watch the previous edition. We were very succinct as to what are outcomes and what are outputs. But can you please tell us how, you have consciously taken yourself on this journey, and you can now say, hey, this awareness of myself has helped me to update, to upgrade. And how did you do your update and your upgrade? I know you have learner. I know you're going to tell me you have been learning and improving, but tell me something, tell the audience, something that some of the steps you took to reinvent yourself, to update yourself, to upgrade yourself, and maybe we could learn a few things. Thank you.
Sure. I can share with you a recent experience, to be honest. It's just like a few days ago. I realized that in a contractual relationship that I'm in with right now, because I'm working with another partner to work on a client project, that actually both sides are very, how should I say that? They care about my feelings a lot, actually. They do. Whenever I have confusions, whenever I have requests, they always answer me, and they always kind of like arrange everything for me already. But whenever I was applying my, kind of like, using all my executing talent, so to speak, right, organizing things for this project, whenever sometimes, whether it's my contractor dealing with that payment issues or whatever, whenever it's not acting according to the way that I want it to be or how I perceive it to be right and appropriate, I felt, upset, draining, awkward, like, that kind of feeling, right? And then I turned down my activator and my achiever talent literally 4 days ago and told myself, like, hey, people are having summer holidays over there in Europe, and they might be also using their own ways to deal with the issues. So instead of me, jumping into conclusion because of my activator being too strong, let's just like get it going. Why is it moving like along? And because I have a to-do, right? I have to tick off that thing from the to-do list. Let's just actually give people the space. And for me to also understand what was going on for them and how can I, add value in the entire process. Is there anything that I can work with them to do it? Maybe there's something that I've never thought of, and I could actually contribute in a way that I've never imagined. I do have a pivotal role in the entire relationship. So instead of like, because it's not acting according to the way that I want it to be, I want to be out, and I'm complaining or like whatever, I'm turning those down, and instead actually push up my strategic, which, for people who are watching don't know what we're talking about, just in case, strategic is the way of thinking where we can come up with options very easily, and pattern identification. I use that. And because I have arrangers number 6, arranger meaning, we can arrange human resources and financial resources, just things very easily for us. I could actually see how things could be done. And then I'm going to use it in our discussion to just make things smoother and make people feel like you're collaborating and that you're not like, oh, I'm just out. Just to make things more engaging and to shift the way that I see myself and I see the entire relationships. Because I like the way that you asked the last question, Taiwo, like how consciously upgrading myself, right? And that's consciously kind of like upgrading myself in terms of that emotions management, how to take perspective and how to change your perspective when things don't act according to the way that I want it to be, or unnatural to my natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Because I realized that, Taiwo, a lot of the human conflicts is because of the fact that the situations or the responses from the counterpart is not what we expect them to be. It's not in sync with our natural way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And that's why we all often, like what you said, the iceberg metaphor, we see the behavior and then we interpret it, but then we forget that there's a lot of things underneath. Values, cultures, their own talents, their own motivations, their pressures, their expectation from their bosses maybe. But then we just often go straight into that interpretation and make things kind of like out of nowhere, right? Originally, there's no drama, but then we make it out of a drama. But then we are also the person who can solve the issue. We are also the people who can turn the situation around, because we have that skill, but it's about how you said, like you said, consciously using it and upgrading ourselves to turn the situations around.
Well, and that couldn't have been better said. I love it, and that's what I just say. You have an unusual skill, and you are able to just express yourself clearly. And I must say that is, that's just one of, other than knowing your strengths, you must develop your skills. So I also even, even though you haven't said this, maybe I should be your spokesperson to say, hey, you have literally, beyond understanding your strengths, you have also championed and, garnered skills to make things work for you. So I remember when you talked about the executing skills, you talked about, now I know that you are excellent with communication. Now, for those that are listening, you see, there's the body of knowledge around the strengths philosophy. And this espouses, that there's a way you think, there's a way you feel, and there's a way you be, all right, or you become. All right. Now, in your being, your being yourself, that's present state. It's been influenced by several other things. And so until you begin to understand that this is the way I'm wired, you cannot fully, all right, play to your strengths. Okay. So there will be misalignment, misappropriation, management. Now, for me, and I'm sure this is almost like every strength discussion says, when I do not know how to use my command, and occasionally it just rears up his ugly head, this week I just said, look, I just activated my command for whatever reason. But when I don't know how to activate, when I don't manage my command, everybody just runs away. But sometimes I need to activate it because somehow it also helps me focus. So tell me your experiences with, because you said you converted your activator. So if you guys are listening, you need to understand that your discovery of yourself and knowing your strengths will also help you to deal with the overdrive and the underdrive. But sometimes you just want to leave it on because, hey, you just want that music on, okay? Sometimes you just need to shut down. You just need to have that rest. So tell me how, because you started to talk about how you realize that in this moment of crisis, activator might just be too much of an overbearing tendency on your own part. What did you do? And how are you managing now? Yes, I know you said you are going into learning mode, but how are you managing now? So tell me, what did you do? I want specifics, because that way people can also be guided that, oh, well, naturally, these are the things to do, not necessarily with regards to your activator strength, but that there are certain things that you did. And maybe that might help anyone or even me listening to you.
Instead of like, who can I go speak to today? Because sometimes it just go, the day doesn't go the way that I want it to be. I have actually kicked off an entire marketing revamp for my company. And I'm working with different agencies and I'm taking it slow. And in a way, it's also like turning down the activator because, like 3 years ago, I would be just like, you know what? I speak to 2 vendors, this is it. I'm going to choose them. But sometimes you make a wrong decision about using third-party providers because they can be very funky. And this time, I'm taking it slow and, like speak to them, make sure they understand what I'm doing. Because, when I'm coaching the senior executives, when they're at the C-suite or -1, -2, is a highly private and confidential conversation. So I want to make sure that the marketing people that I work with understand what I'm talking about and don't throw me with conventional marketing tactics of, oh, Larraine, you know what? Go have a landing page, set up an online school, selling 3 courses, one for 10 US, the other for 25, and you can talk about extra from then. I'm like, no, you have no idea what they are going through,
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. So I'm turning it down in terms of like, I want to get that result because I have achieved it, right? To do. Yeah, I want to get that result, task completed. But, I'm also kind of like, okay, I want to complete the task, but I'm also letting myself, okay, what is the end goal that I want to have? Is to have supportive, reliable marketing vendors that understand my philosophy and why I want to convey that brand message to people that I work with. So I've used that as one of the specific examples that you were asking before, and I'm still using it right now. So it's pretty cool. Maybe the result is coming slow, but at least I feel more confident and more comfortable about the outcome that you mentioned earlier.
The outcome. And the outcome is critical, and I love the fact that you also understand the principle of the outcome. So going by this specific example, it is the fact that you started to ask yourself questions. And so if you're listening, you probably also just want to follow the same thing, even though it might not be the same strength. Is that there's a need to ask yourself questions. Okay? Knowing yourself, knowing your temperament, knowing your proclivities. Are you able to control how you respond, or you are reacting to situations? Because I mean different things. Now, what Larraine has done is she has been able to respond. And how she responded? She says, hey, she notices that she might be a bit hesitant. Or no, not hesitant. She takes quick actions based on her strength. But now she's tried to put a bit of her leg on the brake, just to observe it. She's also turned into a farmer of some sort, almost like the Chinese bamboo. So you confirm whether this is true, because now I've always said this, so maybe you confirm whether this is true. So I heard this story about the Chinese bamboo, all right? And everybody talks about the Chinese bamboo, that it's been watered for 5 years, okay? And somewhere in the 5th year, it sprouts up from almost not being there in 6 weeks to about 90 feet. Is that true? Yeah, since
I have never heard of the Chinese bamboo story.
Whoa. Okay. So
I can tell you, I can share with you that we do have a lot of folklores and stories that we learn in schools that kind of like teaches us the virtue of patience, where it's similar to your story just now. You might not see immediate result for 5 months or like whatever, but it's just you are getting to a tipping point where then you can do it, then you see the results. So it's almost like, because we're having Olympics, it's like, maybe that athlete took 5 months of intensive training of the muscles and whatever, but it's only that moment when he can actually activate his muscle, then he realizes the advantage of that training, because how that muscle build up constantly, like you said, consciously and constantly building up, enables them to do the explosive power of the leaping on a long stick. I don't know what's that sport called in English. Like jumping far, jumping high, whatever, right? So, it takes a lot of effort for us to turn it and to fine tune it, to aim it, so that, when the time comes, we need to have kind of explosive moment, right? We can use it.
Great. Now, and now just to move speedily now, because I'm sure a lot of people will say, look, I need to get much more benefit from Larraine than what we have just been discussing. And one of those things is that you work with teams. How do you create synergy, all right, between the executive and the teammates? Okay, the executive wants things done. The teammates have a contrary view. How do you get them to begin to see, all right? Like you mentioned something about changing perception, taking, their perspective. Now, is it every time you take their perspective, all right, would they take time to manage their perception or, their perspective? How do you manage these emotions? How do you recommend that, C-suite or even -1, -2, or even managers take this responsibility?
The very first principle that I always use, and not that I am the most exceptional team coach ever, because I'm still new in this field. We have to believe that the wisdom is already in the system.
Wisdom.
We are human systems. We are not computer systems. We have to understand that the traditional gap analysis, problem-solving methods that we've been learning for the past 50 years or so in the management study schools, wherever that we have learned from them, it's focusing on the deficit. What is not working? And why the Gallup shrinks is so popular, together with other positive psychology umbrellas, is because we focus on what is doing well. What could we do well? And I remember that you just asked me, what could I have done differently, right? How could I use my activated talent differently in this situation? And the assessment is just like a tool for us to understand, oh, now I understand why I'm acting this way. But understanding is just the beginning, but is to enable us, and that's why we need to work with other people to help us clarify the thinking and help us to think differently, how I can use those natural ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving patterns differently and positively in different situations. And when you were asking me in that team coaching situation where everybody's thinking differently, I always ask the same question is, what is the common end goal that we want to have? And how is your perspective contributing to that end goal? And by asking these positive questions of like, how do you want it to be, where you want to be, then everybody in the circle start to understand, his perspective contribute in 35 degrees. I contribute at 45 degrees. How can I make it to 100 or even 150? And that is kind of to give them space for them to reflect and also to realize that they can find the answers on their own. The answers is already somewhere in the system, just like our patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. It's already in there. We just need to enable them to realize actually how they think and empower them to use it in a very well-intended and constructive way in different situations.
Wow. And that takes me to my penultimate question. You drive strength-based leadership trainings. What are those key things? So, and for those that are listening and those that will be watching replay, Larraine is just an amazing coach. Beyond that, I've seen the quality of our products and our materials. Like I say, it's top. Tell us, what are those key objectives you seek to achieve when you get into strength-based, position or leadership?
Here I would like to get everybody introduced to the beauty and the concept of what it's like to do coaching and why we need to do coaching. The objective of working with a company or group of people on strength-based leadership is not my objective. It's in the service of them. Because when we talk about coaching, it's not in the service of the coach. It's in the service of our client, what they want to achieve. And we are guiding them, we are helping them, just like our coaching training, we are in the passenger seat. Yes. They are in the driver's seat. So it's not my objective, it's their objective. And how the strength-based leadership concept can help them achieve their objectives is really not my objective. And I think my answer is kind of also driven by my significance talent because I want to do something good. And I want to be recognized that I have an impact on the community, on, on other people. It's not about me. And, I can share with you, Taiwo, that, the biggest or profound, actually the most profound aha moment that I've ever got in my life so far, it's from doing this coaching training and becoming a coach. Because why I attended the training and started to become the coach, got interested in the concept, was like 3 years ago. I was sharing with my colleague. I still remember, just like upstairs in our co-work space meeting room. I was speaking to him. It's like, hey, Steve, I got all these candidates asking me questions all the time. And he's like, yeah, you're a headhunter, of course. I'm like, yeah, but they want my advice. They want my assurance, and they want my 2 cents before taking a big job. They know they're going to take it, but they still want to hear me out. And then I was thinking from a very practical perspective, and everybody, who's been to Hong Kong or understand us would be like, yeah, Hong Kong people are very practical. I'm like, I should get paid. Why are they asking me for all this, right? And, I thought that was being a coach. I thought actually people coming to me, that was coaching. And then it was actually until like last year, and for the last 2 years, going through all this training and practicing it and getting clients to work with me, then I realized that coaching is the most, giving profession in an office area, in an office environment. It's not about us. It's really in the surface of them. So that's the moment I realized, oh my God, it's in the surface of them. It's not about me. And then I can make use and make more sense of my significant talent. And I feel good about coming to work every day. So, if you are top in achiever, you would like to start your day fresh, right? What I'm going to do today. And I told myself about a few months ago, what good can I do today? What problem can I help solve when I'm not wearing the coaching hat? Who can help me to solve the problems that I'm having? And, what good can I bring in people today? And that just actually make your life easier in the middle of pouring rain and like pandemic and everything. For the people who are watching around the world, we're having very bad weather lately. And it's just not fun.
Profound, I must say. Wow, that's like a ton of wisdom, packed in there. One of the things that you said that really got me thinking also is that, and this really just resonates with me, is that the wisdom is already in the system. It's almost like we already have what we need to make it work. So yes, notwithstanding the need to do an analysis, all right, just to review and reflect, and then, also almost say, and that's the beauty about the strength philosophy. So you become conscious that if there's a deficit, if there's a gap, how do you bridge that gap with what you currently have? Or how do you complement with those that have it, rather than trying to be that or fill that gap using your energy? That way you dissipate your energy.
Yeah.
Oh, and if there's one of the sessions that has got me thinking, I must say this is one of those sessions that I've had at the Strength Discussion Series. I didn't know, for whatever it is, you've talked around emotional intelligence. You talked about, using different terminology. You talked around perception management. You talked about how to also ensure that you're not the smartest in the room. Okay, so can we sensitize ideas and information? One of the other things you spoke to, which kind of also aligns with what I, because at some point also, when we were launching out, we were everywhere. Now we are trying to zoom in on our markets. There were a couple of things that, like you said, the typical, and for whoever is listening, please note this. The typical, and this is not to kill anybody's business, all right? So the typical marketing specialist. We'll just give you those preliminary, you must do this, you must do this, and do this and do that. But how does it align with what your target audience wants? Okay, if your target audience does not require landing pages or does not play on the Instagram, does not, what are you can show presence because then you can convert those ones eventually, but you cannot dissipate or pull on your energy in that basket. Okay, so find your niche. So whoever is listening, there are a lot of things that our coach has touched on today. Says focus on your strengths, play to your strengths. She's also taking us on our own personal journey and how she took that heroic feat, all right, from Hong Kong, then to Calgary, from Calgary to London, London back to California, and then back to Hong Kong. She's also moved along careers, okay, headhunter. Now she's guiding and coaching people. Now, there's a need within us that we must answer and yield to. And if there's anyone that exemplifies that, succinctly, it's our coach and our guest for today, Larraine Chang. Chang just expresses this thing, that need, that burning desire. In fact, one of the things she also said that caught my attention was, look, just recently she realizes that, hey, she needs to deal with some emotional baggage, all right? And it's from within. And I must say, I love you for who you are. You are so good to talk with, chat with, and the vulnerability you brought to set today. I can't pay for this. We truly cannot pay for this. And I'm sure this will just be one of those most watched episodes, and we look forward to bringing you back. But Larraine, just before we begin to wrap up, because of the time belt, obviously a lot of people are not configured to this channel. But I'm sure by the time the replays go on, there will be questions that we ask. But let me tell you, can you tell us some of the things that people can look forward to, the Ascension Associates, just so that they have an idea of what you mean by envision, enable, and empower? And then technical, can we have Larraine's banner up, just in case people need to reach her?
Sure. When I was working with my team 2 years ago on having this tagline, I was thinking that, we want to help people envision of who they want to be, where they want to end up, and enable them to find the tools and skills that they need, and then empower them to take the leap of faith when necessary to do whatever they want to do.
Wow. Doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
So break it down. Envision, you enable, and empower them to doing whatever you want to do. So it's about what you want to do. So where does purpose, where does vision, where does all of that situate in that assignment that you're doing right now?
You mean where does all these visioning and enabling working for Ascension Associates? We know that we want to focus on building up a capacity as the provider to be, as the coach to be, for those services that we provide. And then we just, kind of like use different assessments and my coaching technique to enable them to find out their own way, to find out their own answers, and then give them enough strength and confidence. And throughout the process, they build up that internal strength that they need, that they can go achieve the dream that they want. Wow. Especially right now, I'm sure, a lot of, Asian communities, African communities, even European communities, a lot of them, especially for youngsters, they are facing high competition and they may not know what they want to do. And, if they are in the middle of the career, they want to climb up the ladder, the competition is high. So how they can, realize what they're good at and kind of like regroup and, go from there, right? So this is actually what we do, and hope to achieve more every day.
Amazing. Now, somehow the technical team is struggling with your banner, but well, that will be on display even after the recording. So in your closing statement, just tell us if there's, and when I say closing statement, it doesn't have to be one line. I want you to pour out yourself so that we have the benefit of. Just tell us what we need to do, to just make a remarkable difference. Just craft it in whatever. Pour out yourself, pour out your message, and maybe somebody will get there.
Sure. I believe the world is ours. And, I believe that everybody has something special to put on the table. And for whoever who works with us, we ensure that the entire Envision, Enable, Empower experience is with you every minute. That you start with our coaching programs or whatever leadership development workshops that we do.
Wow. Okay, so I've had an amazing time, and I'm sure that will be the same with everyone. I'm going to go and have a rewatch of this piece. That is an episode.
Rewatch? Wow, really?
Talked on a few things, and thank God for the privilege and access I have to my coach. All right, this is my coach. I'm going to be taking discussions after this meeting at some later time, and then I'm sure we're going to be up to something in terms of a collaboration with Ascension Associates. Coach Larraine, I can't thank you enough. I must say you've been an amazing person. I remember that call we had. It was 5 a.m. my time in Nigeria, and it was, I think, lunchtime in Hong Kong.
Yeah, 12 p.m.
Yeah, 12 p.m. And it's amazing how that call might not have happened if I didn't have a desire. I don't even know. I think I shared it with my colleagues to say, hey, this is one thing that I love about myself. Okay, this is one thing I love about myself in the sense that if we need to get it done, can we get it done? So it wasn't about what time. I'd not had my bath, but I quickly got up and was ready to just go on that call. And thank God we made that call. And that way, we're able to host this strength discussions. And we were quite flexible because we had to move with time. But I can't thank you enough, Larraine. And I must say that you are definitely going to be one of Asian go-to coaches, okay, in terms of what you offer. And beyond that, also, I can also say that Africa would at some point beckon on you to see how we can work seamlessly. And on this note, all other things that need to be done, we're going to do it when we revise this video. But be rest assured that it's been an amazing time. So from this part of the world and where I come from, we say "Ó dàbọ̀." That means it's goodbye. But how do you say goodbye in your language?
We just say bye-bye.
Ó dàbọ̀. You are going to say bye-bye. So on the count of 5, counting down to 5. Oh, okay. They managed to bring out your, yeah. So in case you need to reach out to Larraine, she's the founder and CEO of Ascension Associates. You have all her info. She has a YouTube page, Info Ascension. She has a LinkedIn page. There you have a website clearly displayed, and you have an email. You could reach out directly, all right? Let it keep going, keep going, keep going. And I'm sure we're going to be setting up our Instagram page shortly, just so that we can have more conversation. Now, just like I said, we're going to practice saying goodbye, but I'm going to use my own native language, okay? But don't you have any, do you speak Mandarin? What other languages do you speak?
In Mandarin is 再见. In Cantonese, which is my mother tongue, is 再見. But I would like to instead say goodbye. Is actually there's a much better word in Chinese, which means there's gonna be another time.
Whoa.
There's gonna be another time. It's only 4 words. It's actually very meaningful. Is in Cantonese is 后會有期. In Mandarin is 後會有期.
Whoa. Okay, so I'm going
There's
to
gonna be another time. For sure.
You say it in those 4 words in Cantonese and in Mandarin, and then I'll say that in Yoruba, okay? And you know, I'm sure people will just say it in their own language. That means that we're gonna see another time. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Odabo. And then
後會有期，後會有期。
okay.